Call to order the Berlin Planning Commission meeting for October 9th, 2024. Can I get a motion to adopt this evening's agenda? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right. Approval of the minutes from September 11th, 2024. Does anyone have any changes or comments? All right. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Opposed? All right, next item, we have the Microtel update to the concept plan. If you guys...
Sounds good. Good evening.
We might need a new shake table here. I'll stick around here.
How are you this evening? So for the record, Mark Spencer Cropper, I'm the attorney for the applicant, 6200 Coastal Highway, Suite 200, Ocean City, Maryland. I'll have everyone else introduce themselves.
Athens Zambetta, 13526 Mulberry Drive, Maryland. Still me.
Tom Zambettis, same address, Potomac, Maryland.
I'm Mike Anestis, Bethesda, Maryland. I'm a lawyer. I've represented Mr. Zambettis for years in various business affairs. But I'll be the enigma of the silent lawyer this evening. I'm just here to observe.
Ernie Felici Jr., Beacon Hospitality, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, management company and project manager.
Brett Ewing, Lane Engineering, Easton, Maryland, 117 Bay Street.
Thank you.
So, thank you for seeing us this evening. This meeting has been scheduled pursuant to a request I made per a letter dated August 28, 2024. As you know, we've been here previously on several occasions, I think most recently, I think around July the 10th. And at that meeting, there was rather extensive discussions between the various planning commission members and us about the elevations of this microtel and how we could accommodate or address some of the desires and concerns of the various planning commission members. And so since that time, my client, Mr. Zambettis, with his architects, made some rather significant modifications, also with the help of local architect Jeff Stokoff. And so what you have before you is a packet that shows the significant changes to the elevations from what is considered a standard prototype versus the revised elevations. And I'm going to have either Mr. Zambettis or someone else describe in detail the changes between what you previously saw and what are before you. So Tom, who would you like to go through?
I'll start, and then Ernie can jump in, and so can Brett. Carolyn, can you just scroll, please? Just scroll to like...
Go back, go
forward.
down.
Forward. Yeah, the other way.
Keep going.
No.
Yeah.
There you go.
Let's say something different.
One more, right there. So basically what we did, I mean, it's no longer a boxy looking hotel, which you all didn't seem to like. So the first two elevations you see show a lot of color and a lot of different design. But this particular page, what we did, and again, Jeff got together with our architect in Texas, and they spent hours going through Google Earth, honing in on the left side, you see honing in on actual buildings in downtown Berlin, and pulling from them and extracting architectural themes on the right side of our hotel. So we were able to pick up, just on this page, 6 bullet items from 6 different buildings. Cornices, red brick, wood, grain, windows, lighting. Did I say cornices? Cornices as well. So Jeff and Michael, came up with this design after several revisions going back and forth. And I'm very pleased about this, and I'm confident that the board, you all will see that we put a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort in this to give it that downtown Berlin feel that you all wanted.
Go ahead.
Okay, could you go back up to the first new rendering? Whoa. So what we did, which was different than the last one, I believe there was a comment. Sure.
I just want to be clear, our packet is dated 8/22, and this is dated 9/27, because I feel like there's like a few discrepancies, so we should be focused strictly on what's on the screen.
Yes, this is the latest.
We brought 10 copies for everybody, so you should have those copies.
Right, but these are dated 8/22, and what's on the screen is dated 9/27.
I think it's the same. I don't see what is in front of you. There were just some fine tuning that we had to change the date for the filing purposes.
All right, good.
I have a few, I'll point them out later, but some.
So I believe, remembering from the comments from our last meeting, there was some concerns about the color of the cornices, which we adjusted. Also, what we decided to do with the brick is, for authenticity, Tom is going to use a real brick material instead of a brick facade, thin brick veneer, thank you. To keep that authenticity both on the building and along the porte cochere. I don't know, were you going to use it on
So
the
it's
drive
used,
aisle?
yeah, exactly. So it's used brick. It's not your standard modular brick, but it's the old real brick, 8-inch by 4-inch by 2-inch, solid. And we're going to a few sources of old buildings that are coming down that we're going to repurpose this brick. So the brick will be on the left side of the hotel from the top of the cornice down. We're also going to do the walkways, we're going to do it underneath the portico, and splashes that have other pictures around the pool area. So there will be authentic, used, old 100-year-old brick on a third of the hotel.
The other half of the front of the building will be the hardy plank, the wood grain hardy plank, that will mirror wood. Carolyn, can you go down showing the pool area? You can go up one more. So, up. That one, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it. So in this picture here, I believe it was the recommendation of the commission that we plant some trees along the pool to try to hide the pool from the road, to create a little bit of cover. So here shows that we are going to plant some mature trees along that, but mature enough that there will be growth along to cover that. So we took that into account, and this will also use that red brick that Tom spoke of. Perfect, thank you. So this also shows that we went ahead and modified the design of the signage, which was I believe it was a gray brick. It's going to be similar to that of the building to match accordingly. We have the street lamp post for the front of the building. This goes into a little more detail, the cornice. Rather than plain white coping, which is on the typical building, there will be some, the cornices that will mirror downtown's cornices, something similar to. And If you could zoom in on the top right picture, Carolyn, if possible. What we've also added was small detail of keystone, or brick keystone around the top of the window. A lot of the brick facades downtown kind of are more curvature above the windows. This is more straight keystone, so it kind of gives it that turn of the century feel.
Where on the page?
No, right to the right.
Oh, that one, okay, okay.
You can see right above the window. Added some detail that you typically wouldn't find in this type of construction.
Oh, I see, okay.
What is that material? Do you know?
That's the red brick.
It is.
It is the red
Okay.
brick.
So we're not going to go with a veneer that's just, an inch by 2 inches that has to have mastic and clips, none of this. We're going to go with the real authentic Mason's building brick.
So with this design, we were shooting for authenticity.
And that's what you all wanted. So,
The trees you mentioned, I mean, what trees you gonna put out there? How tall will they grow to maturity?
Yeah, I think for the concept plan, we spec some red cedars. There are certain varieties of cedars that will grow, up to 20 feet tall, still being able to be maintained and not be, obstruct the pool area.
Sure.
That's the
But
idea.
given time,
It's a
it'll
fine
be a
balance.
nice, big green buffer.
That's, if you look at the site plan, I think those were reflected on the previous time I was here in July. But yeah, that's the intent.
and since State Highway Administration wouldn't let us build up against 113,
Sure.
if you go with a tree that's, remember the pool, we just don't want to have a lot of refuse and garbage and pool leaves and so forth. So this, I think, is going to work out well for everybody.
I'll ask my team, is there anything else as far as the changes from the earlier elevations that you want to bring to the attention of the planning commission members, or have we identified those changes?
We've identified, all the changes necessary that I can think of.
Well, one thing that we did, you won't see on the plan, but we've asked our architect to keep in mind when he designs the rest of the building is structurally, make sure that that roof can support solar. So it is our intent to put solar on the roof, to be ready to put solar on the roof.
Well, and that's my next question then, what's that gonna look like?
You're not going to see.
Okay.
Great.
The parapet. There you go.
It should, be under the parapet or be equal to the parapet.
How tall is the power pole?
I believe it's 4.5 feet. It was 4 feet, I believe it was.
Yes. Well, it's different heights. We have varied.
Right, but I believe nearest the road, it was
Right.
higher, so you couldn't see what we're going to be putting on top there.
It's the highest of the high parapet heights at the maximum height that it could be.
Yeah, we stayed below the height restriction. Yeah.
We're equal to code.
Yeah, that actually has the measurements.
Well, while we're on this page, this is just one of the distinctions I wanted to point out in the packet that we have. Everybody is on this page. It shows brick on this mass in the back, on the 822 packet, which I believe was also what we received digitally.
That was a change that I made at the last minute. So there's no brick on the back, only because the tree line covers all of that area. When we figured the
Get
tree
the input
line.
out there.
Yeah,
Then we don't have an updated version.
I made 10 copies, and Karen was supposed to give it to y'all with
Well,
this here.
I think what we were saying digitally is this one, because I recall looking at this facade and specifically driving by today, for that rendering purpose, it gets cut off by the trees, but as soon as you get a little further down the road, that facade is still relatively exposed, and then you, from coming that direction on the highway, you really don't get any exposure of that brick facade until you're past the building. I'm sure you did it for cost reasons, but having that facade as brick.
Well, that was my decision. It was a cost. I mean, this oversized brick is very expensive to find, clean, palletized, ship, and I have to have my masons come, and we're gonna have to build it, an extended footer. So it was my decision not to do it on the back because we can't see it. I mean, once you pass the building and look hard to the left, who's doing that? You don't even see it. But, I mean, that's the reason.
I'm not arguing with you about that, just stating the fact the rendering is very advantageous. It's taken from way in the other direction to the point where that tree line can cut that off. But you will be able to see this part of the facade as soon as you're within a couple hundred yards of the property driving.
I
from west to- or
understand what you're saying, Eric, that the front's got brick, the portico's got brick, the pool's got brick, the walkway's got brick. Y'all wanted brick, there's the brick. We picked up, other ephoses on the back to pick up the flavor of Berlin. So it's what Jeff and the architect came up with, even with the change.
I do just want to note that what you're looking at was what was initially dropped off in hard copy, but these are dated just a couple of weeks ago, so there is a difference in the dates there. You dropped those plans off back at the end of August, I believe, but these are dated 9/27, so
So the
that's
question
the
is,
difference between
what other
the two.
differences are there between the digital that we're looking at on that screen and what's in our hand?
It was just
Do you know
it was just the
anything
brick
else?
is the answer. I was trying to get in for the September hearing, didn't make it, so
I was curious.
we just,
As we're flipping through this.
right. So
We all
he
went through
updated
this.
it, having discussions with Jeff, and the only thing is I'll just remove the brick from the back. Everything's exactly the same.
Eric, do you see anything else?
There might be a couple color discrepancies on one page. Can you go back to that page with the trim detailing? One that we on most recently.
That one?
The one on that just shows like the window trims and I think it's at the end of the package.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a question within, it's the same within most versions, but for example, this trim color is shown as charcoal in this detailed view, but it looks like it's rendered as more blue. I don't know, that's getting nitpicky in terms of what we're approving, looking at visually. But then on the siding page, the Hardy color is called out as like steel blue. And it may be in fact that you intend for them to be different colors. But yeah, that brick facade is the primary thing that I think.
See the building.
keep looking through. I just want to thank you for all the changes you guys made. I know it's not been easy, so.
I know it's growing on us, we're liking this. We're liking this a lot. It'll be unique.
Why two textures of siding?
Again, just the flavor of Berlin. The 8 different pictures that they Googled Earth, that's what Jeff and Michael came up with, to go with as many of the in-town features as possible. It would be better and cheaper for us to not have as many, but this is what they came up with.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Stick with smooth. You're going, especially with a light color, you're going to have problems with the texture. It's going to attract mold a lot easier, more surface area. And you're going to have maintenance problems before you have it with the smooth.
Noted. Good point.
Buy an extra power washer. Buy an extra power washer.
Well, why bother if you don't need to?
Yeah, I understand.
You're gonna have to power wash. Regardless.
Yeah,
Wood grain hardy is not good.
The first thing that struck me is the yellow. It just seems to just jumps out. Maybe that's what you're intending to do, but
What, Ron, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
the yellow color,
Yellow.
it just, to me, it's just,
Well, I agree. I don't like that contrast, but again, it's what Jeff, who you asked me to call, and Michael came up with, contrasting downtown Berlin.
What yellow, sorry, for clarification?
you know, on the front facade, you know, the one on the south side, to the right. The majority of it, you know, you're calling it
Renders great.
sand castle. Sand castle.
The wood grain? The wood?
What you have is wood grain.
Yeah.
It just seems to me to be, I don't know, it jumps out to me to be not too pleased.
Eric, do you think that's a coloring of the 2 yellow here?
I think it probably renders and prints very yellow.
Yeah.
It's definitely a product. We all know what red brick looks like. That particular hardy product that's intended to mimic wood. I mean, there's also a wood grain picture shown next to it, which I'm sure is not the wood grain of that hardy plank. You know, depending on, you know, how things go. That would be something that I think we want to look. I think the hardy concept for that, maybe Ron is suggesting that it just be a painted thing instead of a wood grain, because we don't have anything wood buildings of that scale.
There's not much wood grain around. And again, it's a maintenance thing. I'm trying to solve a problem for you guys.
The authentic, I mean, I appreciate the authenticity thing, and that's one thing that I feel like, okay, well, that's not being authentic. You might as well have it be painted lap siding rather than try to look like wood, because it's never going to.
You got to pull it off.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what we're worried about mainly is from afar, and you don't even see that from afar. You just don't notice the texture difference.
Okay, thank you for that.
Another thing is on the south side, on the right-hand side, he's looking at it from the front. You have the brick, well, let's look at page 7. On the right side of page 7 in the middle, you have large plate glass storefronts. You have Beach Memories on the left as your example, and proposed hotel on the right. I don't know of any, maybe there is some, brick at the bottom of the glazing in town or anywhere around. It's as is on Beach Memories. It's paneling, which is, I can tell you, cheaper than the brick you're going to buy. It's a sheet of, today, it's a sheet of 1/4-inch AZAC with 3/4 AZAC rails and stiles and some OG trim in the void. It would be much more appropriate to town. It would save you some money. Now, I would also drag that across the south side to the right, where you have glass to the floor, which you don't see anywhere in town, it would look better. And also, on the south side, would save you from that sun coming in there a little bit. Probably about, looks like 20% of the solar radiation that would come in there would then be gone. It would just be more authentic.
Choosing wrap it around.
I would take paneling. It's more authentic. If you want to be authentic, that's what's in town. There's no brick below glass.
Okay.
And I do believe it would be cheaper. I'm trying to save money, Tom.
Ron, you use your fingers, buddy, trust me.
Look at Ron, value
Ladies and gents
engineering.
end up saving enough money putting their brick on the back. Killing you, aren't I?
It's old brick, it's tough to find.
My little thought along that line, talking about the same type of details. And first of all, I really appreciate the effort you guys have made, especially going with real brick all around. Impressive. But looking at the upper left comparison with the hotel, the easterly, westerly, well, all the fronts are somewhat broad and unbroken up. Could you consider putting canopies as downtown around the glass area on the south side, go around the east side, and the canopies with the supporting structures, just like downtown, and that would break up those walls and make them a heck of a lot more interesting.
Just like your Victorian charm and beach memories.
Exactly.
Yeah, and also on the pool side, just put the drop canopies with the supporting hardware like you have downtown, and that breaks up that wall. And then something on the north side, if you could bring up a north elevation, maybe from the pool area, you could wrap that canopy around a little bit to the north side, just to break up that north side wall
That's it.
on the west side. And maybe some kind of a canopy over those doors in the brick section. You know, in a position there, have a, this is brick here, right?
It's not good, I mean, it's on your paper, but it's hard to like.
It's not gonna be any brick there.
No, that's what Eric was mentioning.
Yeah, it's gonna look
I
like,
missed that.
yeah, it's gonna look like.
That was from the screen. But still, you're saying that area.
For that area,
Canopy.
do that breakup.
Talk about the pool side, the west side?
The pool side, the west side, and bring it around the corner.
Oh, and wrap it
To
around.
the north side a little bit. I mean, go a distance,
Yeah, yeah.
just to bring it around. And then over the doors, the two doors down there, just to break those walls up some.
Where the people are.
Yes.
I believe that those are actually windows.
No, they're the back of house doors.
There's not 102? Or 103?
You know, the two doors right there.
Oh, okay,
That's
sorry.
back of house, and that's the back of the elevator
Yeah,
level.
you were looking on the right side.
Yeah.
That's where I was at first.
No, I'm talking about,
Yes, by the pool, yes, she's talking about by the pool now.
Okay.
It's a canopy and then bring it around the corner. And also on the east side where the glass is.
Wrap it on the east,
Bring it
yeah,
around
I got
the
that.
front, right around on
Mhm.
the east side. I think, my thought is it would really break those walls.
It would soften it up, and it would keep glare and heat, with the sun coming in
And
there.
it reflects downtown nicely.
Gives it almost a little bit more of a boutique look, and people know shopping around.
And if you turn the corner on the north side, where you have the brick, looks like a walkway. I can suspect in the one elevation I'm looking at is stage 5. A walkway, and I guess there's a door behind those trees.
And that's behind those big trees, behind that.
Yeah, right there,
Yes.
right there. There's a walkway there, if you brought the awning around there, I mean, not only for looks, but just for people coming around the north side in a rainstorm. It gets nasty around here on the north side of the building.
That's a stair tower for people to go in that way.
So that wouldn't be bad.
it's probably where people are gonna smoke too.
Right. You are absolutely
So
right.
you
That's
might
what
as
they
well
do
make
at our
it coast.
hotel,
No, there
right
is
there.
that.
That is one of the places that people do.
Yeah.
At the location.
And then we break up that really tall brick wall somewhat.
Yep.
Spending all that money that we saved you before.
And now we're spending.
Yes, but we're not into it.
That's okay. It comes
Well, you
out
gotta
of the wall.
save it on this end, to spend it on this
I'm
end.
all
That's
for
what
it.
those interior decorators do all the time.
If I can weigh on that just a little bit, what I think these developments have done a really good job of, and I know I was a big advocate for it, is the area that you're trying to do in brick and with the cornice detailing and everything being distinct from the area being hardy, I'm gonna say, don't take that awning and just tack it on to the different elements. Maybe it just wants to be part of the brick element, because the brick element is speaking most to downtown, and you don't want to then stick that awning on the hardy element. But that's just conceptual. Everybody that probably agrees with the awning being a good thing to break up the facades, but.
Tough, because I know, like, I like the idea of the awning where the windows are.
Yeah, it's where it makes most
Yeah.
sense.
Well, it's also
to-
facing south and west, which is
Yeah.
where your heat problem's gonna be.
Yeah.
So it's gonna save you HVAC.
But that is also recessed slightly, it looks like,
Right.
based on the elevation, so
Yeah,
it's
it
already
looks like a
getting
little bit, right.
shaded.
And I agree with Ron's comment on putting bulkheads under the windows more than downtown. I call them bulkheads.
Bulkheads
I
up
don't know,
there.
I don't know,
Bulkheads.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
Bulkhead.
I've heard them called that before.
Right. They were wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think the paneling was not, I don't know.
And cheaper.
Really want to
That's
say
the rapid corner.
We're trying to work this thing out.
100 feet east projects now. First.
Bring up one other thing, and I've been meaning to ask this before, but the previous plan presented went in the opposite direction, so I didn't want to bring it up, but just as an option, is there an option for you guys to have any divided lights in any of these windows?
Yeah.
And again, maybe it's something that's just distinctive on the mass of the building that is brick, and I think it's probably not a very cost prohibitive thing,
I'm confused, you're saying lighting on the brick or on the?
on the windows.
In the windows.
But on only the windows in the mass of the building that has,
He's talking about breaking the windows up to look smaller, to look more like individual
yeah.
glazing rather than one big piece of glass, mullions of some type. Am I correct?
You reference like grids?
Yeah, mullions.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I don't know.
Divided by two, whatever.
You don't mean like 12 over 12, you mean like one mullion across the middle?
Something.
Yeah,
Like,
something.
What's typical to downtown is one mullion, one.
A lot of them, it's just, basically, you want to make them look like double hunts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One mullion, one horizontal mullion.
Because it was brought up at that. Maybe just forget it.
I don't know. It's-
Okay, so
I think
go
it's-
to page 7, 3E. Is that an example of what you're speaking of there? Like just one straight across?
That one.
And then again, 3A, 3C.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Is that what you're referencing? Okay.
yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah, those mullions, that's a great idea, that could really break up that.
I mean, those are all fixed windows, you just talked about a simulated divided light.
Inside, in between the two glazed units, it's very minimal charge.
That could really add some textual interest.
Well, it would just look like a double hung window, which is what we have downtown. Particularly from afar.
Yeah, we'll work on that, we'll investigate it, because it was to my memory and understanding is the proprietary look for the solid window with the HVAC below the window. The old style Microtel had mullions, but this one is just one sheet of glass. But we'll talk to the
We're
architect.
just talking about one.
I hear what you're saying. It's
Make it
not
like double hung window.
I understand.
Top and bottom section.
Yeah.
Minimal.
On all the windows or just that one side to add some contrast?
Eric suggested the brick, just the brick. Is that what you were talking about?
For the brick areas?
Yeah, again, it's just furthering what I believe to be what is developing really well.
Oh, I see what
There's
you're
distinction
saying.
between what is brick and what is.
It's, they put them inside the two units.
Right,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
It's not actually
They
changing.
put it where you want
It's
them.
aesthetics.
It doesn't affect cleaning the glass, it affects nothing
Right.
other than it's looking like a double hung window. Just
And I
bringing
see-
one more detail in.
Aaron, I see what you're saying, where
Where
the
you
old
go.
brick is, it'll make
Just
it
the
look,
common part of the
yeah,
building.
that makes sense. Okay.
Because I think it makes sense for that other part of the building, even though you're doing some things that are more authentic and possibly doing paneling beneath that full height glazing. That I personally think it's good that mass of the building is distinctive, from the part of the building that you're trying to be more authentic, Berlin with. I think we've talked about this before. I think there were some notes about it somewhere. The porte cochere is still very lacking, and to me, as an architect, looks like something that hasn't been fully designed yet. And I'm sure that's probably the case. I know this building isn't close to being finalized in terms of all the design details.
Do you think you want to see it sloped? Do you think you want
I
to
don't
see
know if it needs also some detail on the fascia or something like that. If you put awnings on the front of the building, it's going to affect, that horizontal line of the roof of that structure as well. Or I'm just guessing that's what your architect is going to say. The brick piers or columns, I think, are.
It's something we could definitely take a look at as we dive into the design, the construct design phase.
Yeah.
But that's just the standard porte cochere
Yeah.
from the prototype.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying, as we go in and
So you're
massage.
not done yet.
Yeah, there's going to be
Massage a
detail on
DD
the
set, we
fascia.
could definitely go in there and.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that well.
Certainly could be a feature that could add a lot to the depth of the design if you could do something like
If
that.
you did something neat with that, it would have a lot.
I didn't want to bring it up because I'm trying to pick on you guys. Well, that's why I don't want to go.
Chris, do you have anything? Pete?
I appreciate the changes that have been made, and
Can, I go meet with my client for a minute? Give me a couple minutes.
Goes Bill Tom.
But basically asking for
what?
asking for some level more which would never until it's 100%.
And I'm here to repair the steel structure.
That's because one goes.
Oh my God, they cut a tree down.
Every trigger.
For the commercial construction.
Exactly, that's how
I'm
they
really
do
sorry,
it.
but I think
That's how they do it.
That is how it works.
And the one in Easton, well, Easton has a better code. That's the difference.
I also wonder if they didn't come down to the.
No, they're pecans, and they've been there for a long,
Oh,
long
really?
time. Yes, I know those pecans.
You do this.
That's pretty good.
I know that.
I've been by there hundreds and hundreds of times.
Yeah,
I know, that's correct. He said we got 30,000. We got $30,000. We should come up with that guideline. Why didn't they?
It was our job to do it.
Right, we're going to do it. When I corrected him, he didn't say
The
anything.
guy who was normally like fighting us and stuff, I was like, oh, he's on our side. Well, the tables are 10.
What water temperature is
I don't know where, I have no idea where it's.
So, thank you for letting us have a couple minutes. Obviously, it was our hope and desire and goal to leave here this evening with elevations having been approved, but in light of the discussion between the planning commission members and our team, obviously, there were some additional modifications and changes that you all would like to see, and I think we're in agreement to make some changes, but you're going to have to see those changes before we can expect you to give us an elevation approval. So we're willing to do that, but we'd like to know if we can turn around the elevations in a week. Can we get on the November agenda?
Yes.
Of the plan? Okay. Okay. Because we don't want to be another 2 months.
We're here to work with
Yeah.
you. Well,
So,
so I mean, hold on, like, I think yes, the right answer, but that's gonna go to Mary.
Well, I mean, the
Well,
deadline that has been imposed is 30 days. In this case, it would be October the 15th.
Mhm.
But if you want to stipulate a date that is not, a week before the meeting, I think we can.
Okay, so we can find a date that works.
Right.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
Well, I understand.
Politically,
Yeah, we just don't want to lose 2 months.
No.
But this has been, I think, a very productive conversation, what client believes it has been, but we don't want to lose 2 more months on another.
We don't want you to do
rendition.
either.
But that said, I think we do need to establish what that
Okay.
timeline would be.
Okay.
Can we split the time, Mary?
What do you think?
Halfway?
The 29th.
So 2 weeks from
2 weeks. You
today,
pick the date.
whatever that would be.
We'll give it to me.
So the 15th was the goal, so if you added 14 days, the 29th.
29th, okay.
Yeah,
That work?
that's a Tuesday, that's fine, Monday, Tuesday, that would be fine.
All right, thank you.
28th, 29th.
No.
29th.
Got it.
Well, no, we're, just so we understand, always come back in here and get the elevations approved at the next meeting. That's the goal.
No, understood. My question was, is there a conceptual site plan approval type of thing that could happen? And just come back just for building elevations, or is it all tied together? I know other jurisdictions I work in, they separate site plan and say, we'll come back for architectural approval by the commission.
One other thing that I think would need to happen is that they would need to have updated paper copies. There's a discrepancy of a month between these.
I'll make sure that you.
We want in our hands 2 weeks before, what you coming in with.
I'll personally deliver it.
Okay. We know that was a mistake, but.
So my question then becomes, as you guys are trying to get elevation approvals, what are we currently allowed to approve? Can we approve elevations?
My answer
I'm
is
gonna have to
yes,
ask.
because
Yeah.
more.
I mean, you-
Well, and I'll tell you why, because of the language of the moratorium. It says, final site plan approval, annexations, and rezonings. They are not to be considered until you get a new zoning administrator. These are elevations. This is trying to facilitate what will ultimately be a final site plan approval.
I get it.
But we want to get this behind us.
I understand.
So if we can get the elevations behind us, that gets us closer to us being able to make a final submittal when able to do so to get final site plan approval.
I understand. I mean, I'm with you. I want to make sure that in the town of Berlin, when they instituted this moratorium, that was their intent. And I can't speak for them.
We don't set a
I-
precedent.
That was said from the beginning, that the intent was not to stop everything in its tracks. It was to get it as far as it could, but stop just shy of the final site approval.
Okay.
And I'll be more than happy to advise the planning commission on these matters.
No charge.
We can say,
Taylor, you are.
We're still just approving conceptual
Yes.
elevations, and we can still
Well,
make some type of motion.
no, I'm gonna tell you, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the elevation component of this project, the elevations to be approved, so we can put that to bed.
Well, let me just say, Ernie just told me that you haven't gone through design development yet. So that means that there's 2 phases left of design for the elevations to change. So if you get approval now, then nothing that we approve can be changed.
That would be
without-
correct.
Because design development, this isn't schematic design.
Internal.
Right. Well,
So there are a lot of things that we talked about today from a detail perspective related to things like brick detailing
Right.
and lintel detailing that you may find when you get your brick suppliers say like, oh, we can't do that lintel detailing with this, pre-blended brick and things like that. So, I mean, I'm comfortable approving things conceptually in what we have shown here, if it does not deviate and continues, and obviously we're talking about some other things that would
Right.
need to meet. But I'm going to venture to say a lot of the things that we've commented on,
Might have to change.
might change from a construction detailing perspective. And
That's-
that's okay. and
that's your
hopefully we can
call.
work with you on
Are
that.
you okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay, all right.
This is just how it goes.
Right.
Okay.
Because directionally, I think everybody here, I'll speak for myself, but the direction everything's headed in and the changes are positive and trending towards the direction.
Okay.
Just 'cause
Construction
in the
center-
real world, things change
Right.
when you get.
Yeah, these are
to the
not
next step.
construction documents.
Understood.
Yeah.
So.
Is there any comments from the public on this? Any other comments? Yes, okay. Rick, do you have anything?
No.
Other staff, do you guys have anything? You guys good?
Thank you again. I think it's been extremely productive. So,
Yep.
thank you.
Thanks, thank you all.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is a discussion on design guidelines and standards.
You want to read the specs for that? Yeah, we want your advice on that. Tell Tommy's man.
So Eric, myself, and Ron met a couple Tuesdays or Wednesdays ago, and we rifled through the Worcester County design standards relatively quickly and recommended roughly 40 changes on the document. The changes, all they did was change the word shall to should, where we thought Worcester County's verbiage or should or shalls just didn't work for Berlin because we're different. You can't be 50 feet from a sidewalk for parking in some instances and other stuff. The changes we made are not meant to be, or the changes we didn't make are not meant to say this is what Berlin is going to do. The goal is to get this in front of the public and the mayor council for approval, and then for it to be a living document until it's
Until we get a real one.
until it's worked through page by page by a planning committee, a full planning team and potentially an expert, et cetera. So with talking with Mary and Rick, the thought process was that there's a list of the changes that were provided to you guys for the documents, for the design standards. So basically, if you look at it and you look at something and it says page 32 to be changed verbiage from shall to should, that is what the recommendation was between me, Eric, and Ron. So it's going to be on the agenda for next month for a motion of the Planning Commission 2024-01 to establish design standards to improve communication and serve as a guide to commissions, staff, and developers. This will give the public a full month to review this if they would like to have comments and come back to the next meeting. It will give everyone else up here time to review it to see if there are changes you want to make. I will want to keep reiterating, this is not a final document. This is meant to protect the town of Berlin, so we have something to support us until we can go page by page, line by line, and getting Berlin their own precise design standards. So that is that.
Here's my question.
Fire at me.
Pages 4, the preamble language about authority, where this came from. Are we going to adapt that to our code? I mean, you can't use this language from the county in there.
That is why you were here with some comments. So honestly, I mean, like, there was like page 2 on one and a couple things changed.
Well, you know, page 4, I mean, there's a lot of things here. We got to reference the right sections of the zoning code for our authority and the comprehensive plan and all that. And I'm not articulate on all of that. I don't know who is. Rick?
Do you mind if I speak?
Oh, please. Let's bring up the resident expert. I'm fumbling through this.
Which
I can't even get workers' comp.
That wasn't part of the deal, huh?
No, but Pete, you're correct. Do I need to state my name and everything?
No.
You know, there are sections in the preamble that are Worcester County centric. But the draft language in terms of recommendation going to the mayor and council would include recognizing that those sections, you know, in the recommendation, you know, there's, well, let me go into a particular example.
How quick the time.
Small town, get the best.
Wouldn't be as good, but I could start with as I was saying. But that being a long whistle did give me a moment to at least collect my thoughts. Town of Berlin has already exempted itself from all Worcester County regulations with the exception of electrical code and plumbing code. The proposal is to adopt these guidelines and standards from the county simply as an overlay for communication purposes, as you've already stated, without pulling the rest of their regulations back over top of us. Our code already exempts us, so the adoption would be, you know, careful to that, to maintain that. In that document, it specifically says Worcester County's Planning Commission can waive anything that's in that guidance document. And so, but the draft recommended language is to replace that specific piece to say the Berlin Planning Commission can exempt anything that's in there. The whole purpose is to use this as a guide for communication, as Matt said. While the prior guests are not here, you know, a number of things that you were attempting to, as a commission, to convey tonight, such as the north side of the microtel. On the south side, the front side of the building, they've done a great deal that makes the first floor area, the pedestrian area, very friendly to human scale. And that's lacking on the back of the building. So when you're describing things like canopies, you know, to break up that mass and put it at the lower level,
there are items in that guidelines that you could point to and just say, you know, for example, we're talking about things like this. Further on, you were talking about the very large mass of brick that appears in some sections. And so there's items in there as well that you could just say, hey, we'd really like to find a way to break this up. But you would be pointing to things that an architect could articulate far better than I can in order to accomplish those goals. This does not tie your hands. In addition, it also encourages the proposed recommendation language would encourage the use of examples from architectural designs from other communities. There's things in Austin, Texas that are very helpful because of what they have in their historic district. Particular situation called for it. No reason you couldn't pull that document as an example. Strictly intended for communication. You know, you guys were trying to find ways from the dais to the table down here tonight to communicate the things you had to say. And hopefully this would provide you some tools to make that easier. Thanks.
So, Rick, is it the plan to use this precatory language in the county code, or are we going to tweak it and reference our own authorities within our comprehensive plan?
You know, Peter, maybe I should look at it again. You know, those first few pages, most of that preamble, there's an introduction letter, there's a, hey, this was our purpose. The one that really stood out to me in there was Planning Commission ability to waive and making that specific to Berlin.
I agree with all that.
Most of the rest of that preamble didn't garner much of my attention.
There are specific statutory references to the county code, and I think maybe it would be nice to either knock that language for now or put some language in that says under our code, we have the authority to adopt this, our county.
I think in the sort of cover to it, we can add a disclaimer that indicates places that reference the county code, you know, we'll seek the same information. It's something, some sort of language that covers us so that we don't have to make those changes specifically right now.
I mean, I think maybe.
Ultimately, it is absolutely going to become Berlin's document.
I get it, but
Yeah.
just to try to avoid confusion and make us look good, I don't think it would take too much effort to knock out some of this and maybe make a statutory reference somewhere.
I fully agree with you. I think it would be easier to note those items in the resolution ordinance or what's the resolution?
Yeah,
That would
ultimately,
be
it
used
would be
to
a
adopt this,
resolution.
to strike out the preamble in the resolution that adopts it.
Well, some statement of authority would be nice.
Agreed. And that's the intent as you asked.
Okay, all right.
Well, we will get that into the resolution that goes before the mayor and council. Right now, frankly, I don't have the administrative staff to turn this into a Berlin document.
We get it, we get it. How's that going?
Let's go. Hopefully, we're close.
You know, number three's in sight. so-
Third time's the charm.
Yeah, so third time's the charm.
Maybe you can retire one.
No, it's not me. It's a good
No,
thing.
no, no, I'm saying you can retire and be done with this.
Anybody have any other comments on design guidelines and standards? Any comments at all from the public? No? Any comments from the staff? I have no comments. Do you guys have any? All right.
I think it's interesting that, I know I didn't talk to anybody up here. It's interesting that we all seem to have the same idea about the vision of the project.
I think this one is about as well as I could have ever imagined.
Because we all know Berlin.
I mean, y'all didn't talk among yourselves, so we all.
No, there was nothing.
We all came up here fresh, and I think that's very,
It says something about us as a body.
well, it says something about that we really have. some-
And their cooperation.
Right.
Yeah, it was very, we
No, I
haven't
think
had
that-
anything like that.
I think that one as well as I could have expected.
And I will say, when we met with them separately, what they presented was heading in the direction
Right.
that they, of what they presented to me,
Right.
which just blows my mind that
Right.
they, you know, to hear it so far away from that last time.
Maybe we should give them a bill for design services.
Motion to adjourn? Any second?
Second.
All right.
EDCO.
Just call it.